Hey guys, what is up? It is TrueKiller360 here, and I got a very special series for you guys today. Today you guys are going to watch some TK Predicts. Now this is a series, this is an NCAA, and basically what you're going to see is I'm going to go through and basically play a simulation through NCAA 14 of the top 25 games for this week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and see how accurate NCAA is. Okay, game one, we have number 1 ranked Mississippi State versus Arkansas. This is a very, very good game. It was back and forth, but in the end, Arkansas actually managed to knock off Mississippi State, number 1. We'll have to see how well Arkansas actually plays today and see if they can actually knock off Mississippi State for real. Now, both teams really weren't that impressive. However, Arkansas's 242 yards in the air did manage to give them the win. So let's go ahead and move on to game 2. For game 2, we have number 2 ranked Florida State versus number 5 Louisville. This is a very back and forth game as both teams did turn the ball over 3 times. However, those 3 times Florida State did turn the ball over, ended up in touchdowns for the other team, so that really hurt them in the long run. Now, TK predicts that the Louisville Cardinals will win. However, that game was actually last Thursday night, and Florida State did end up coming back from a 21-0 point deficit to win the game. So that's pretty depressing on the TK predicts part. However, let's go ahead and move on to game 3. For game 3, we had number 3 Auburn versus number 4 Ole Miss. This was surprisingly a lopsided game. What really hurt Auburn was the only 7 minutes and 55 seconds of possession they had versus Ole Miss's 12 minutes and 5 seconds. Ole Miss almost doubled them in time of possession, and there's no way a team could win with that kind of numbers. Now, Ole Miss did end up throwing for 256 yards, which did account for 3 touchdowns and set them up for 2 field goals in the second quarter. So, Ole Miss beating number 3 Auburn. Let's go ahead and move on to game 4. Game 4, we have number 5 Oregon versus unranked Stanford, and we actually have unranked Stanford beating Oregon 17-10. This is a very back and forth game, a very good defensive battle. However, Stanford did come up with the win with 263 passing yards, which did give them the win. Next, we have game 5. This is number 7 TCU versus unranked West Virginia. We have TCU blowing West Virginia away 34-9. Overall, TCU was very, very good, and West Virginia just did not have a defense at all. It looked like defense just did not show up. So let's go ahead and move on to game 6. Next, for game 6, we have number 9 Kansas State versus unranked Oklahoma State. We actually have Oklahoma State taking the upset 35-31 with a penalty with 0 seconds remaining on the fourth quarter clock, allowing them for one more play, which they hit a 56-yard Hail Mary to win the game by 4. It's a very, very exciting game. As you can see, Oklahoma State putting up 321 passing yards, which is just incredible. Let's go ahead and move on to game 7. Now, with this very, very lopsided game 7, we have number 10 Notre Dame versus unranked Navy, and this one was definitely a blowout with Notre Dame winning 38-3 with over 12 minutes of possession and 23 first downs compared to Navy's 9. This is a definite blowout. Let's go ahead and move on to game 8. For game 8, we had the 11th ranked Georgia versus unranked Florida. Georgia looked very sloppy during this game, turning the ball over 3 times, while Florida turned the ball over none. However, Georgia was able to get everything done through the air with a last-minute touchdown to put them up by 7 and hand them the win. Let's go ahead and move on to game 9. For game 9, we have number 12 Arizona versus number 22 UCLA. This is a very good defensive battle. UCLA managed to hold Arizona to only 69 rushing yards and only 193 yards through the air. And with their basically 12 minutes of possession gave them that win to be able to upset Arizona. So let's go ahead and move on to game 10 and see what it has in store for us. Next, for game 10, we have number 13 Baylor facing unranked Kansas. It was a pretty comical game to start off with both teams receiving a safety within the first quarter, within 3 plays of each other. However, towards the end of the game, Kansas looked like they just had given up and couldn't move the ball at all. Their defense was struggling, and Baylor was able to pass 272 yards, which allowed them to score 28 points unanswered until Kansas answered back with 7. However, that was a bit too late, and Baylor takes the win 37-16. Next, for game 11, we have number 14 Arizona State versus number 17 Utah. It was a very good back and forth game, with Utah going for an onside kick during fourth quarter and Arizona State actually taking the onside kick back for a touchdown, which basically sealed the game up and allowed Arizona State to win 27-21. It was a very good game back and forth, with Arizona State 300 passing yards. However, Utah managed to do 254. But what hurt Utah the most was the onside kick and the very poor running. Both of their first and second string running backs got knocked out during the game, and they didn't really run much after that, and that really hurt them in the long run. So let's go ahead and move to game 12 and see what's going on there. Game 12, we have number 15 Nebraska playing unranked Purdue. Nebraska comes off with the win 24-20. However, Purdue's quarterback did throw for 326 yards, making it a career high game for him. However, Purdue could not get past Nebraska's running game. Nebraska ran for 181 yards, almost tying their passing yards, which is at 202, which is still very impressive. For game 13, we have number 16 Ohio State versus unranked Illinois. Ohio State was able to win 46-42, surviving yet another almost upset 2 weeks in a row. Both teams combined passed for a total of 835 yards. However, Ohio State was able to come off with the win with a final Hail Mary and a 2-point conversion. For game 14, we have number 18 Oklahoma versus unranked Iowa State. This is a very back and forth game. Both teams were very balanced and their stats were almost completely identical. However, Oklahoma was able to keep the ball a few minutes longer, and that allowed them to win by 3. Oklahoma won 24-21. So let's go ahead and go on to game 15 and see what's going on there. And finally, we have game 15. This was number 24 Duke versus Pittsburgh. Duke comes up with the win 44-41. This was a crazy, very intense game, with Duke barely passing Pittsburgh in passing yards. However, Duke really did struggle rushing. However, the turnovers that Pittsburgh suffered led to Duke touchdowns, which really helped Duke in the long run and allowed them to win by 3. So that's it for all my TK predicts. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Let me know how well my games have gone. And that's it. Have a fantastic day, guys. Go watch some football. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic day, and peace out.